It should be going. Hardcore. Yes.
Silly people surround
Zetsubo
me.
for everyone. Let's all despair together.
Way ahead of you.
You can't be ahead of me. We're together. Damn it. It's not how it works. Man, look at. I love this. I like this frame of them smiling, being like, "Where would the CCG?"
Is it like a little silly because it gets dropped really soon?
Yeah, I know.
That behavior?
It's silly.
Wait.
Well, the guy tells him to get that smirk off his face.
Yeah.
Have you seen this? Have you seen this ghoul in your dreams?
Yeah, exactly.
Ever dreamed this ghoul?
Ever dreamed this ghoul? You might be entitled to recompense. No.
Yeah.
God damn.
Nightmare compensation.
Once again, we have. Yeah, exactly. What the fuck are you doing, you moron? What have you done? You've ruined the podcast.
I'm sorry, you guys. I'll be right back.
Oh, that must have been his cool ringtone.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want to hear my ringtone?
Sure.
Okay, here we go. Let me see if I can get it loud enough for the mic. Settings. Sounds. Okay, ringtone.
What the fuck is that?
So Osaka.
Oh, okay.
Saying "Oh my God" over and over again. Yeah, wakes me up in the morning. Gets you in the game.
I'm back.
Perfect.
What I missed?
Nothing. So once again we've skipped ahead in time. And
Okay, before anything else, did anyone find this opening page a little bit baffling?
What? Where Urie like has like a cool action team and just like bursts forth.
No, this one. It begins with Psycho complaining about having like stomach trouble.
Oh, yeah.
And because of what she ate yesterday, and then the first thing Urie says is like, "I smell something," and I was like, "Wait, what?"
You were thinking of Kurosawa, weren't you?
Well, I was looking at. I honestly stared at this because I just got called out by you guys because there's that panel where it looks like. Was it Urie is holding the sword, and it looks the angle. It kind of looks like he's grinding the hilt into his butt.
It was funny.
And you guys accused me of having a butt fixation. Then I looked at this panel. I was like, maybe the author has a butt fixation.
I will say the version I read, the contrast was much lower, so it didn't look like he had it in his butt. Like it just looked like a gray overcoat with the thing in front. But your version, the shadow on his butt was like pure black, and it like blended with the hilt. So it did kind of look like he was putting it in his butt. I think it's what I'm saying is it's a skill issue. Yeah.
But I did stare at this opening page, I don't know, 10 times, wondering, was he trying to make a joke here, or were you intended to misinterpret what she said for a moment? I don't.
You think
it's just odd.
Urie might be into butt stuff.
Okay.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, anywho.
This was a long section with a lot of things happening.
Many things happened. I don't think I'm gonna be able to remember. Like,
I think a little too much happened. To be honest.
Yeah. I mean, why did he have to? I mean, I guess I get why why both arcs have to happen at the same time to function, but it makes things more complicated than they need to be.
I wonder if he was trying to do...
I think it was a purely... Oh, go, Meech.
I was gonna say, I wonder if he was trying to do like a Chimera Ants, where like you have all these this big operation, you have all these little scenes happening. I mean, I know that's kind of every arc, but this one really was like there was revelations happening everywhere and deep insights into the psyche of each, flashbacks of everyone. Kind of reminded me of like the Palace Invasion or something, but a lot kind kind of clunkier.
It's a big important point in the story overall.
Yeah, like this feels weird that this isn't like the end. I know I said that kind of last time, but that I know, but I melt. But well, just because I was like, oh man, like the owls getting revealed, we're having this big fight. Like it could have ended there, but this one especially, it really feels like we're wrapping up a lot of stuff that has been like kind of open since part 1 almost, except for maybe. I mean, we even saw Amon for a second. I mean, I'm sure it'll be in the next bit.
For a second.
Yeah. He just was like, let's go. And I was like, damn, everyone's getting involved in this fucking arc. It's like all the characters.
I found it a little bit funny last time when both of you more or less said that Ri has been more consistent in its writing than the first part of Tokyo Ghoul.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the consensus that starting at this point, Ri gets less consistent with its writing.
That's unfortunate.
I was very, very frustrated by this because this stretch started out pretty okay. It had its strong points, it had its weak points. We got some good banter with characters and things other than fighting and other than characters framing why they're fighting with gratuitous exposition, which is the good part of Tokyo Ghoul. Then it just gradually got more and more bloated and bogged down, and it got to the point where we had 10 different conflicts going at the exact same time. It got a little hard to follow. It got a little exhausting. By the end, I was honestly holding my head just saying, make it stop, make it stop, make it stop. Because we're getting we're getting tragic backstories in the middle of 5 different fights going on at the same time. They're throwing characters after characters at us, some of whom we haven't seen in a couple dozen chapters. There's just so much.
We haven't seen since part 1. Yeah.
People keep showing up, and then every character has 5 other characters who kind of looks like them.
Yeah,
so I had to slow down and look up their name and be like,
so bad.
Who's on whose side again? Fuck,
and I kept having to Google,
whatever.
give a name Tokyo Ghoul into Google and be like, oh, right, that guy. Yeah, okay.
Or yourself on.
Yeah, now I know. Well, I didn't.
I think the Tokyo Ghoul guy, his big weakness is he doesn't understand the good part of his own story, I think. And he undercuts himself by putting this stuff in that I think he thinks is supposed to be in it, but just isn't that good. There's so much, and the thing that keeps undercutting it, the characters are fighting because it's a race war. This is not that fucking complicated.
You know what?
They're mortal. I know there's other stuff going on, but fuck, we don't need you to constantly re-explain why you're fighting. You're fighting because you're fighting. It's the core conceit of the manga. We've got it.
You know what I think I realized, like, reading this part? You know that thing... I know a bunch of... I forget who came up with it originally, but like that thing of like authors being either... What is it, like...
Oh, you mean architects
or gardeners? Yeah, exactly, that thing. At first, I was like... I thought this guy was an architect, right? Because there's all these like... These like long play... little hint type things. But I think now... I think I've realized... I think he's just a gardener with like... insane recall ability where he just keeps everything in mind, but he's still he's writing it kind of stream of consciousness. He just has insane ability to remember all his pieces and where they are and where they could fit in. But I don't think I don't know, like it doesn't feel
an interesting, like on exactly this topic. An interesting thing I found out some time ago when I read an interview, and he was actually talking about Shojin X, and he said like for the part of Shojin X that he had written at that point, it was like 50-50 in terms of pre-planned and gardening basically, and he said that was a pretty good ratio, which sort of must mean that Tokyo Ghoul was more gardening eventually than architecture.
Like, for example,
the problem with his go.
I was just gonna give like a little example. It's like the way in which stuff can get kind of distorted in a way is like if you mentioned like this guy, what is it, Nirata, whatever, the clown, the new clown. Urata.
No, Furuta. Like Nimura, Furuta. Or
Nimura, that's what I was thinking of. That's what I don't remember. Nimura, right? I was like, after a bit, I realized, okay, this is the guy the clown who was in the restaurant all the way back in part 1. Like the clown we've only seen masked. I was like, okay, that's cool. But that doesn't mean that like all this stuff was planned since part 1. You know what I mean? Like, just because he was like, oh, this character is the same character doesn't mean that like back in the restaurant he was thinking, oh yeah, in a few hundred chapters I'll have this guy be like infiltrated in the CCG and also be like a half one-eyed ghoul, you know? Like, that stuff feels like stuff that he's like, oh, I can use this character and kind of add this stuff as I'm running. You know what I mean?
The thing is, we don't know which things he planned.
I know, but what I'm saying is that's what it feels like to me. Like, I just don't want to give Ishida, like, I concede he has like amazing planning things and things he leaves like for a lot, but I also feel like a lot of stuff gets thrown in there that maybe is just stuff that is kind of, you know, that is just something he like kind of came up with flying by the seat of his pants, and then people just assume, oh, everything must have been planned, like he was this god who just created the whole story from the start. And it's like, I think there's a lot of stuff that he kind of just thinks like that I could do that, and it, as long as it doesn't conflict with anything, it works. That's kind of what I was trying to say.
I will get to that topic, not in this podcast, but probably once we have finished
once we're reading Shoujo
I will say about this, I feel like the author has this bug in his head that he's writing Death Note and he's misunderstanding the appeal of the story. Do you disagree?
No, I know
it's a strange comparison.
I know what
Death
you
Note?
mean. It's kind of like when we kept saying this is a shonen and Jaws kept saying it's a seinen, and I still kind of think it's a shonen, like, because it's I get it's totally violent and nihilistic, but let's think of something like Nausicaä, for example. I also wouldn't classify Nausicaä as a seinen just because there's like decapitated heads on spikes, right? Like it's kind of the way in which it presents itself is kind of a really important factor there. And I still think
will say
this is. I think what Green is saying is that this is like, I think this is more like a really good Jujutsu Kaisen, rather than like a Death Note, like Green was saying. But he wants it to be more of a Death Note, I guess is what I take from that. Yeah.
I feel like the author, he thinks he has to write this really dense, really cerebral,
heady,
psychological thriller where there is action and people making decisions, but you know, every important action is framed by 80%, you know, mind games and webs of motivation and these different competing institutions, when he really doesn't need that, and it just bogs things down. I get there was a stretch in this where they're introducing even more organizations, and there are more code names and more shady groups. We don't need it. It just slows it down. What he's good at doing, to some extent, he's good at portraying fights. They're usually not my favorite, but you know, they're okay. To some extent, he's good at portraying fights. And what I think he's even better at than that is character moments and interesting relationships and, you know, quirky group dynamic things. But for whatever reason, he feels the need to constantly corrupt that with all of these just unneeded complexity, unneeded explanations. I don't know. I don't have a good example, but I feel like at least half the pages are characters framing why they're doing things, and it's really not necessary, and it detracts from it, you know, what we could focus on. This is where it got really crazy because it was just so many characters.
It got comical.
One of the common criticisms for Re is that it has way too many characters that don't really matter much.
Yeah, like I remember one podcast we mentioned how it's kind of strange that Re has muddied the whole, you know, ghoul dove dynamic. Like in part 1 it was much more like cops and robbers sort of thing, and we were already saying this, like, okay, now we have like the queues and you have people infiltrated and things, but now it just really jumped the shark with now being like also the CG is also run by ghouls. It's like I legit don't know what does either of these organizations mean anymore when there's just everyone's ghouls. There's ghouls everywhere. The good guys are ghouls, the bad guys are ghouls. Even the good guys who aren't specifically ghouls are children of ghouls. Like, everything is ghouls. And it's like, well, I get... Again, that's like a thing I don't know if he planned. Like, we think, like, oh, now they're introducing these V organizations. But it's like, no, they're not technically. They were in part 1. They were the guys that talked to the cafe owner in that dark alley once. And it's like, okay, I know there was, like, a scene, but... I'm not sure. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I also don't know if I would just wholeheartedly believe that from that scene, he was already thinking, oh yeah, these are going to be the secret organization that the clown guy is also in, that are secretly the Washu family, which are also ghouls. Was that all planned years in advance? Maybe. But I don't know.
Even if it was planned years in advance, what purpose does it serve to have that?
It's to just show how no one is all gray. There is no one. Yeah, no one is like wholly like good in their intentions. Everyone's a hypocrite. There is no good side. It's just two sides fighting each other due to circumstances. Yeah.
Yeah, but if the conflict between the factions is that empty, then why do we need so much exhaustive framing of the conflict between the factions?
I don't know.
That's what really gets me, just because the fighting is not that interesting. The battle between them isn't super interesting. It's not super complicated. There are interesting, complicated characters in the midst of it that you could focus on more, but it becomes about the organization rather than the characters, and the organization is just kind of empty. And we're to the point now where the organizations being pointless is the point.
Not to keep drawing comparisons to Hunter x Hunter, because it's a bit unfair, but like
because you're watching it right now, so you're just fixing
no, that's not true. You know, I've talked about Hunter x Hunter all the fucking time, regardless of if I've seen it recently. I'm just gonna say I think what you mean by like the guy kind of doesn't know his strengths is like the story we're interested in seeing what's going to happen, because we're interested in seeing what's going to happen to the characters, right? Like not the grand scheme stuff, like where we want to know, like we want to see Kaneki fight and go on these missions because we want to know what's going to happen with him and the Sasaki, the heist thing. Like we're not really interested in shifts in the status quo kind of that much, but in a way it's also like we don't understand what those stakes really are. Like when you're in Chimera Ants, you understand if they don't kill the king, that's really bad for humans, because he's just this invincible force that keeps getting stronger and stronger, and it means the possible extinction of humanity, or at least losses of millions of lives, right? It's like the back and forth of all these little battles between the doves and the ghouls. So far there hasn't been one that's been like, this is the one. If we lose this one, everyone becomes ghouls and humanity is extinct, or vice versa. They're always just like, oh, you know, it's like losing control of each sector, sort of, but for the most part, that's like, it doesn't seem to make much of a difference in the overall world. Like they'll tell us like, oh yeah, the ghoul activity here has been much higher, or here, oh, it's been really hard to be a ghoul around here. But like day to day, you know, humanity at large still continues to, exist exactly as it has existed for the 20th century. Like, there have been no differences in this. Yeah.
I mean, I would personally say that world building is one of Ishida's worst things in Tokyo Ghoul. He's got a lot better in Shojin X, but
that's interesting.
In Tokyo Ghoul, you can really tell that was not one of his priorities to make all of that make sense.
It feels a bit
like it's just set dressing. It's sort of part of the vehicle to go through all the character stuff. But he could have told pretty much the same stuff with the same characters in a completely different setting. It's just probably I think his idea was probably to take something shonen-y to make it interesting for the readers and just set all that stuff in that kind of setting.
Yeah, right. Like the setting feels like kind of child or naive, maybe, in like kind of a way that Naruto does sometimes, where it's like it works fine. It's not nonsensical. It's like effective, but when you start to really think about it, it does feel like kind of convenient in a lot of areas, you know, where it's like, oh, there's just this government organization, and we just fight the ghouls hand to hand, and that's how we've done things for hundreds of years, or like 100 years, and that's just how it works. Don't think about it too much. It's like, okay, that seems kind of weird.
It will continue to honestly get even worse in a way.
Like, why isn't the rest of why hasn't Russia dropped nukes on Japan to stop ghouls? I know there are ghouls everywhere, but Japan has like a very high count of them, right?
Not very much of the world building is explained.
Yeah, we don't
at all.
know, I guess.
Yeah. That's just how it is.
It's just
it's not. Yeah, it's not a part of Tokyo Ghoul I focus on when I think about it being good.
Yeah, is it CCP or CCG? I always mix up their
Commission of Counter Ghoul.
Yeah, Commission of Counter Ghouls. They're basically a runaway bureaucracy where
they're a very powerful entrenched bureaucracy.
Where the people who are running it are so poorly supervised that they're basically doing whatever the fuck they want. I mean, Arima literally has pet ghouls, and no one can stop him because he's the big dog, and being the strongest guy means you can do whatever you want.
Exactly.
Apparently.
That's like what I mean by kind of naive and childish. It's like that sort of makes sense in this world. You can argue it, but we all know in real life that's not like. It's not by being like the soldier who kills the most people or the sniper who headshots the most that you become fucking general, It's like, it's so much more complicated than that. Like, just having a system where the strongest people in combat are the people in charge of like,
he isn't.
Tactics.
But
Arima is not in charge. Like, he's not
but he's in charge of his... He can do whatever he wants,
like
basically.
exactly. Like, he's kind of got runaway... authority.
He gets a lot of leeway, but he's definitely not.
I get that, but even then, like, everyone is expected to murder ghouls. Like, I feel like there should be more characters that are more like tacticians and organizational and tactical, that would die immediately in a fight. It just
all those people do not fight.
But we never see when we see people commanding. It's like the glasses guy or the guy whose motorcycle keeps getting exploded. Those guys, we know they also can fight. It's just that they've like kind of gone up the organization and then gone exactly. But it's like, I don't know. It feels like kind of simplistic, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Cool. And what I'm getting at with it. If the bureaucracy and the organization is this chaotic and dysfunctional and arbitrary and silly, it really nullifies the organization itself as a point of interest, because you're just watching silliness. You're just kind of watching a tank that's driven on ice and it's spinning around wildly shooting its cannon. I know that's an exaggeration. But
not exactly. Like, okay, you go first, and then I will say.
It makes no sense to frame this story as this dense political drama where the intricacies of the bureaucracy and all that is this really important point of conflict. It doesn't really work to do that when the organization is so silly and so dysfunctional. You can have the silly, dysfunctional organization, but if you're going to do that, then you should just go all the way with it and have it almost be a comedy of errors where it's, I don't know, it's one of those old army comedies where the army is so screwy and weird that, like MASH. It should have been MASH, honestly. Yeah. They're kind of doing their job, but it's a complete shit show, and everyone knows that. And you can focus on the characters and what they're going through and how they cope with the war being such a dog shit situation. That would have made a little more sense.
I mean, okay.
The problem is they go for this super dense bureaucratic procedure thing where they're always talking about the leaders and the factions and all these different shadowy organizations, when the shadowy organizations are just too ineffective and silly and arbitrary to be interesting. Like, we're not watching a game of chess. The point of interest should be the little decisions the people are making within the dysfunctional organization, and I think we just don't get enough of that.
Let's talk about your idea of dysfunctional. From this piece that we just read, we basically get the whole purpose of the system. And with the Vashu being ghouls at the head, the whole idea is simply to be untouchable and have unlimited food, and that's it.
But, okay.
And get rid of any person who can threaten this system that's already set up, and that's it.
This system is so, like, it so often, like, spills out into, normal human life and causes casualties and death. But it seems like the Japanese government itself, like the main government, the real life government, just seems happy to just like almost like ignore the ghoul thing and leave it to this like Green said, like semi-dysfunctional, goofy bureaucracy. It's like that doesn't make any sense. Like if there was something so horrific as monsters that like stalk people at night and like cause the biggest scandals, the fucking government would be so in control of whatever section they had. Like the fucking CCG wouldn't be able to fucking move for having like the actual army constantly like pointing rifles at their heads and being like, listen, you're going to report to us every little fucking iota of your management, and everything goes through us because this is the most important thing in the country, right? Instead, they just seem happy to imagine just relegating like this incredibly important thing to just like a random family from a few hundred years ago and just being like, you guys probably have got a good handle on it. I don't know, man. The Japanese, I don't know. I think of the Japanese government as extremely like effective and having very few like scandals and leaks and issues like this. I'm sure they have them, but like it seems so organized and on top of things. I feel like it's like when there's a Godzilla movie, they don't go, like talk to one family and go like, oh, you guys are the Godzilla killers, right? Like, well, you guys take ahead of it. We trust you. Like it's like a big international incident where everyone's on the phone and people are going, okay, should we nuke things and should we throw the army in? I know the army isn't effective, but the army is effective at threatening humans in the Ghoul in the Ghoul disposal organization, right? Like they should keep everything in check.
But they don't know that. But anyway.
But I'm not saying they know they're ghouls. I'm just saying they would be like. It just seems like kind of so what's the word, like nonchalant, like relaxed. Like they're just like it'll work out. Everyone claps their hands.
I will back off from this point because I've repeated myself 10 times. But I'll just simply say the interesting decisions in this world are the ones surrounding what is Kaneki going to do with his new memories.
Yeah.
How are people going to respond to him getting his memories?
It's going to happen to the Qs.
To a lesser extent, how are his Kohais going to cope without him, and what's going on in their lives? Although we've now explicitly kind of dropped that point in a way, because
kind of
that's to an extent what some of the side characters are doing with their ennui, like Tsukiyama. Those are the real interesting choices in this world to be made, and the much less interesting choices of if I never see another double page spread again where 7 faces list the position of everyone within the bureaucracy.
Yeah, I do hate that page specifically because of the tiny fucking ass dialogue in it that no one can read.
Yeah, and you don't know exactly who's saying what sometimes because like the speech bubbles are just like in between things. It's like who said that? Kaneki? What? Yeah, he doesn't use enough. He doesn't use enough speech bubble arrows in general.
Those decisions are just totally vapid and totally obvious because they really are just talking shop about how they're running the organization most of the time, or they're just setting up fights that it's totally obvious why we're having the fight. Again, this is a racial extermination unit or a pathogen extermination unit thing. Why they're fighting is so set in stone. We do not need to hash it out over and over and over again.
I think
I just feel like the interesting character choices keep getting smothered by the Byzantine wannabe Death Note stuff, and I like that we do get interesting character moments when we get them. I just feel like we're not getting as many as we were, in like late Tokyo Ghoul or, like the last batch of chapters in Re.
Yeah, like do you think what's happened is it's taken a lot longer than it usually does, but it's kind of happened. What's happened to it is what happens to all shonen eventually, where it's become like larger scale than it needs to be, and it has too many characters, and it's becoming unwieldy.
I would definitely say
that's definitely one of the things that happen.
That just seems to happen with like, I'm not saying this is as bad as like Naruto fucking war arc. Like definitely not. Like I still enjoy this a lot. like you know, and it's still slicker and more and has a lot of stuff that you won't see in other things. Like I'm not saying this is like, you know, silly Dragon Ball power levels or anything, but it just seems to be like, yeah, the more characters you keep around because you might want to use them later, then you get all these big organizations. You need to set up all these big networks to explain things, and then the story invariably goes from like a much more personal focus, which was of part 1, and you know, that stuff that was in the background in that has really become the main focus, it seems. And so it's become like this big, large scale thing where it didn't need to be. Should be more zoomed in, probably.
Kind of on the same thing. When we got to the part where Mutsugi is in the cave with the weird guy that cuts her limbs off and then gives the long story about, oh, I had this little waifu neighbor who taught me to read, and then I saw my dad cutting her up to eat her, and that was so fucked up, man, and now I'm crazy. That would be fine, but on one hand, I feel like we're a bit overloaded with ghouls having tragic backstories about this time they hung out with a human and something really bad happened.
I would say we're just overloaded with backstories at this point.
And like, it's like, okay, if this shit happened 50 chapters ago, we could have made it work, but we're in the middle of 7 fights going on at the same time, and all these other characters telling us their backstories at the same time. We don't have room for the maudlin ghoul backstory at this point. Like, honestly, I'm done. There's no room left in my heart for maudlin ghoul backstories. It's time to move on. Being a ghoul is fucking sad. We get it. We haven't resolved enough of the characters who've already told us their sad backstories.
You can't care about every character in a story. Like, that's it's counterintuitive, but not every character should be given the same amount of care and attention and detail. Like, because that detracts from characters who matter. That's the problem. Like, if you give every single villain, every minor villain and every minor agent a backstory and motivation and like thing, you might think like, oh, it's a positive, like, oh, more good stuff is more, but it's not, because the way in which things become valuable and memorable and important to you is in contrast to other things. Like certain characters are just meant to be secondary characters. They're not meant to have a backstory. You're not meant to care about them that much. Like, they work for other characters to bounce off of, and they make the main characters look, you know, more memorable and important in your mind, because those guys do have important backstories and motivations. If you just go giving every single fucking agent like you wanting the people to care about them, then what you get is like everyone caring a little bit about every character rather than caring a lot about like any specific ones, you know.
Yeah,
interest is not an infinite commodity.
I think, I mean, I'm amazed I'm saying this, but I think Michi just put that really well.
Thanks.
I think the heart of what the story should be at this stage, it should be the tension of Kaneki's long-time loyalty to his ghoul friends slowly emerging as he gets his memories back, fighting against his, you know, weaker but more pressing affection for his little Kohai sidekicks that he had in the first part of the manga. And then Arma is in there a little bit, although they haven't really developed Arma that much. I think that is what we can focus on emotionally and what could make sense. Because the good parts of Tokyo Re so far, where it was the cross-dressing stuff, it was the antics with Suzuyuha, and you know, him teaching his little buddies to be cool. And they even have a thing where they talk about the dead guy's sister. Oh, we have to keep her alive with cancer treatments or something. I think that, you know, the human heart, or the ghoulman heart in conflict with itself, that's where the main conflict in the story is right now. And
it always is.
And that has to take such a huge back step to all of the plot that we now have to deal with. And for whatever reason, they also kind of nullified Kaneki's emotions to some degree by having him just suddenly not care about half the characters that he cared about up till this point. I don't know if that's going to come back more as we go forward. But that's what's actually interesting right now, and it just has so much stuff to compete with.
It feels kind of... I don't want to like rag on this too much, because there was a lot of really good stuff in here, but there was a lot of like not as good stuff. That's what stood out to me. And it was like stuff felt clunkier and less elegant than usual and more like shoehorned. Like this entire thing with like let me just use this like a microcosm, but like the entire thing with like Eto's editor, right? Like that was a funny, cute backstory. I've got nothing against it, but it feels like there was like a lot of focus given on something to kind of get a payoff to, but it almost felt like someone was like injecting you with like with like forcing you to be like, I'm going to sit you down and make you interested in this so that then it's like a payoff. And it's like, I can tell you what you're trying to do. Like, you're not doing it right. You can't just have your characters say how they feel. That makes me angry.
That makes me angry.
like you can't just be like, oh, Etso, right? We haven't really, she's kind of been this faraway villain. Well, now she's kind of coming to the spotlight. So I know, let's have a flashback where the guy that they've taken in turns out to be like this editor, and they have this kind of funny thing, and oh, he's made her the author she is. Then let's have him be turned into pate and given to her as food, and then let's have this edgy, like, cool denouement where she goes, "Now I'm gonna eat you for what you did to my guy." It's like, oh, I sure cared about that guy because I remember you, because I'm like a stupid idiot. So I go, oh yeah, I remember when he showed me this guy and he was like kind of funny. So I really care about this. I don't give a shit. I've already tried to give a shit about like 20 different guys. Shut the fuck up. I don't give a shit.
I think the author I think the author had a lot of potential, to have some interesting emotional moments. And she's a good example. When she just goes on TV and says, "Hey everyone, I'm a ghoul."
Yeah, that was funny.
See ya. That was very clever. That's a non-obvious decision.
Yeah.
That's something grounded in character, but not something that they would obviously do based on their responsibilities and who they are. We didn't get 20 chapters of her just sitting at her desk writing. We got a chapter of her, doing something unusual that we can still believe her doing. That's good. I wish that had been more of a framing device, and maybe it will be.
It got to a point where I was scared of flashbacks. Like I was when the guy from part 1 who I joked looked like Vash the Stampede, something with H, when he gets his nose bit off and then he dies. I was expecting in the middle there. I kept expecting to turn the page and have a 7-page backstory of what this guy's story was, but he just died, and I was like, thank God.
Get that. It's just not 7 pages. It's like I don't know, 1 page.
I don't know, like
something.
1 page is okay, but like some of them just go like a bit too far. Where it's like I'm really not that invested in if this guy gets his head chopped off. Like I don't care, and it's like And it's not like I don't want to care about things. I do, I really do. But it's like I'm focusing here to try and care about a lot of characters already. Like, yeah.
There was a moment in here, and I even have it in my notes, where it was everything that bugs me about the series in, I don't know, 10, 15 pages, where there was a long meandering exposition, technical discussion talking about RC cells and why they don't go off in some circumstances, or why the scanners didn't work. Yeah, super technical stuff that we forgot about 100 chapters ago. Then they start rambling about these new organizations that are coming into the web of organizations that are all mostly doing the same thing anyways. And then to top it off, someone started talking about Rize, and I literally
when I got to that, I was like, "Oh, Green's gonna lose it." Yeah, this is all about Rize.
Also, it was strange to see Toka again, and Toka has actually not been that big a part of Tokyo Ghoul at this point. When you think about
Toka is like lesser character than a lot of like she's like on par with some of the lesser Ghoul investigators, which is weird. Like,
the whole like Mato's daughter is more important than Toka at this point.
The thing with that is that her main character arc happened in Tokyo Ghoul, in the first half of Tokyo Ghoul.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's why she just is not as present for this part for now.
He kind of went and resolved that like kind of early, and now he keeps her around, but he's like, what do I do with her?
It was weird it was weird to see her. It's like when you're watching a new Pokemon and like you see Brock or some shit. It's like, fuck, remember him? At this point, she really hasn't been in that much of the story, because even in Tokyo Ghoul, she was in the story a surprisingly little amount for being the main waifu.
Yeah, you think
at this point Hinami has kind of unseated her as the main girl in a weird way.
Yeah, you're right. Like, yeah, she kind of from her being so pivotal early on and being so recognizable as like a character design and having cool scenes, like, yeah, you kind of expect her to be much more of a main character. Like Suzuya like eclipses her, but it's like when they show up, you wouldn't think so in the story. You know, you'd be like, oh, seems like cool guy. It's like, yeah. Arima has like become way bigger than her, which is weird because he was always like this boogeyman, you know, in the shadows guy. It's just, I'm not saying you can't do that, but it's kind of odd. Also, like keeping on with characters looking too much like each other. When Eto cut her hair, she looks a lot like Toka for some of those panels, and I knew it wasn't her, but I was like, okay, she's become like less distinct to me. Like I liked her more with long hair. She looked more. She was more easily recognizable. I'm not saying I dislike the drawing in and of itself, but I think she's become more, you know, like she's become less unique in a way. She was one of the few characters that had a more distinct hairstyle. Speaking of like funny, like me thinking characters or other things, when what was her name? Floppy?
Yeah, Floppy is like a code word for Corona and for Armon as well.
When Corona jumped in, I shit you not, I thought they had carted Hairu's corpse from the corpse thing and the doctor had brought her back to life because she looked like she had the same, and I didn't know who the fuck this was. I was like, who is this? Like, and then they show flashbacks to, like, part 1, and she had like black hair, and it's like he keeps switching hair colors so many characters that you don't know who the fuck is who at certain points. You're like, is that?
I mean, she always had black hair, but
she doesn't have black hair in the new one. That's what I'm saying. She has like light hair. That's why I thought she was Hairu. She had like
he should have given everyone a funny hat.
Yeah, please. Just
or
like
name tag.
Yeah, just something like Tokyo Ghoul definitely.
Would actually be
Tokyo
great.
Ghoul definitely fails the silhouette test. I'm gonna say, like,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters that have just like short dark hair and like have just the pretty face, and I'm like, who? Like, more people should look like Jason, you know. Or like, like if you want, and it's not because they're all wearing similar outfits. Because like if you want the gold standard for that, it's like go see Full Metal Alchemist. It's like everyone's wearing military outfits, but they all look totally fucking different. It's like
it was crazy.
That's like one of his biggest improvements in Shojin X is how characters look way more distinct.
Yeah, I got that idea just from leafing through Shojin X. I was like, oh, these are very like like kind of recognizable, more unique designs. Like because he went more out there. Yeah.
There was a part in this where Toka and what's his name's uncle shows up and tries to have a big emotional moment, and I was kind of like, oh fuck, let me open the wiki, like let me try to remember. It's like, dude, this is not about you. We wrapped you up 200 chapters ago.
It's become funny because it's like Kaneki at this point flip flops between looking like Arima or looking like Toka's brother or looking kind of like Urie did. It's like he our main character has kind of gotten lost in the smorgasbord.
Yeah, there was a part where he was standing next to Toka's brother and they were wearing very similar coats.
Yeah, they
I
just
literally
have, like,
had to
dark
look at
clothes
their
and
collar
black.
because one of them popped her collar, and that's how I tell them apart for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess just probably should talk about the plot a little bit.
Yeah,
one thing, I mean, I feel bad for Jaws because this is both me and Michi for once just complaining about the same thing.
I mean, I'm happy that you actually have so much to say on Tokyo Ghoul, even if it's mostly criticism.
Well, I gotta say, them have, again, the abandoned bureaucracy thing. This is like Cube. That's an exaggeration, but this is like the movie Cube, where the evil psychological death machine just exists for no reason. They have this crazy supermax prison with the Ghoul Crusher inside of it. And apparently security is so lax that Kaneki can just run in, push a button, and all the doors open at the exact same time.
That's what I mean about like it being kind of childish. It's like, oh, well, Kaneki, okay, well, this guy is like a recorded ghoul who has risen in the ranks and is like part of the murder squad. So he should just have free access to the prison. That makes sense. It's like he should be passing like 17 checks with like machine guns with like anti-ghoul quinquays put to his head, and people should be like checking like, oh, you know, you gotta plan in advance if you gotta come down here and all this complicated shit, you know. Like.
I mean, I will say it is possible that maximum security prisons do have a button that opens every door. If only we knew someone who could, you know, confirm this for us. But we don't.
Remember in Golden Kamui, the big prison had a lever that just let all the inmates out.
Yeah, but that was back in Who Gives a Shit
that
time
was
when you could just shoot prisoners and no one cared.
Early 1900s, lawless Hokkaido, and they did explain it as like it was like an emergency measure in case there was a fire or something. I think was the idea. I don't know.
Which I mean, stuff like that does exist, but it's not literally just. But also, the ghouls. This is also a death camp in a weird way. They talk about how Hinami is about to be
she's about
cold
to
or something like that.
I'm gonna say,
I don't. If anything, the emergency button would kill everyone in their cells, not let them out.
I am going to say, look, I know these are like nitpicks, and I don't really care. When I say these things, I don't super care about them. They don't affect the story for me. But it is a bit goofy to have like ghouls have doors at all and be like, oh, the way we execute them is we have to transport them from their cells into this hydraulic press. Every cell should have the technology to gas them to death with a button. That's how you kill them. You go up to their door. The door shouldn't even be able to be opened. Like you put them in there, you seal the door with a fucking welder, and you talk to them through the bars. And then when you want to kill them, you press the button that gases them with anti-ghoul gas. That's how you could do it. You don't go, oh, with every one of these, we're going to have an openable door, and then, you know, these things that can kill you whenever, we'll transport them by hand to the fucking juicer. That seems very like if I was in charge of Cochlea, I would make it a much more effective murder machine. Is what I'm saying. I'm Hitler's top guy.
Gotta say, it seems very, very, very expensive to keep all these ghouls in a giant prison.
The Washu family, man, they're fucking they're loaded.
Isn't the idea kind of to kill them? Like, isn't that
they can get information out of them? Is the idea, I guess. Right, Jaws? You can get info out of them.
Some of them into material. And
kinkays, you can make kinkays out of them. Yeah. I get, for artistic reasons, it is cool to have a hydraulic press. Also, it makes comical
sense.
Yeah.
To keep that many prisoners at
exactly
all times.
It's very risky. I mean,
it's one of those world building details that does
if I wanna defend it, I will say the CCG has proven itself to be like a kind of goofy, anything goes run by weird eccentrics organization. So I guess it actually makes sense when your officers are guys who look like Yoko Taro. Then I shouldn't expect the president.
A giant circular door in the ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. I shouldn't expect. That's a good point. Like, I shouldn't expect this to be run in rational ways when all the people in it are so goofy, and it's proven to be a goofy organization where things don't really make sense. Okay, I guess in universe it makes sense, but looking at it from a point of view of like modern day Japan, I'm like, what are you doing?
I mean, if it was explicitly something where they were trying to maybe rehabilitate some ghouls,
like
and
treat them as humans,
more what they were doing, that would make way more sense with what's going on with Kaneki, Kaneki as well. It was also funny when he releases all the prisoners and someone goes, man, I guess Kaneki did have ghoul sympathies after all. Oh shucks, what you gonna do? It's like, oh really? You think the fucking the super ghoul prophet with white hair that was beaten into unconsciousness
keeps changing personality
at the end of the last manga and was then enslaved by Harima? You think maybe he might betray you someday?
Do you think Urie was like punching a wall somewhere? Like bashing his head, like he's been warning everyone and telling everyone. Like, it's weird that he's the only person with misgivings that we know of. Like, I know they tell us in the fucking big 2-page spread that like, oh, there is strong opposition. Really? Because I only hear Urie ever fucking complain. Everyone else is like, this is a Kaneki's cool. He's
like how in Boruto they just let Orochimaru hang out.
Yeah. This guy, yeah. whatever. But okay, let's
mean,
talk about all the cool stuff that did happen. That we do like. It's hard to choose.
Did you intend this as an ironic mockery thing?
I did not.
That looks like that's what you were doing.
No. Okay, I know. I love Tokyo.
I mean, I like the early banter with the Kohais. I think that was good.
This for me isn't like a huge drop off. It's like from a 9 to an 8 for me. Like I was gonna say, it's just hard to zero in on what particular bit to talk about, like because they're so kind of separated. Like the Mitsuki
I started
thing,
feeling pretty good about it, but then by the end I was so exhausted I wanted to kill myself.
I'm gonna talk about like to zero in on like the Mitsuki thing, right? I think like you were saying, that was really effective as its own short story. Like I liked the guy's backstory, like Torso's backstory. Like that was one where I didn't really mind, because he's kind of been a guy who we've been wondering like what his deal is for a while, you know. It was possible he was just like a crazy ghoul, right? But it's like, oh, this guy has like a weird infatuation going, right? Like that's not normal for. It's not like every ghoul does that. So I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And her thing, getting a bit more elucidation on why she, you know, kind of hates men and has this gender thing going. You know, like that was, and you know, perfectly plausible backstory. I didn't pull any punches with the, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like, well, you know, that's like a thing with Japanese stuff. A lot of time is it's happy to show like gore, but they kind of are squeamish about sexual things. I'm glad that they were like, obviously this is the kind of thing where that would happen, and yeah, it does. They don't have to show it or anything.
Yeah,
Good.
I mean, it's only implied, like it's not shown.
Well, yeah,
but
exactly. No, I'm not
point.
saying I need. Yeah, I don't need the full the demonstration, but just that acknowledgement is what I appreciate. Yeah, and I was like, okay, well that's interesting, and it kind of has made it's an interesting development for Mitsuki that she's kind of gone AWOL in a way, and going forward, I assume Urie is going to be kind of like, you know, on the hunt for her. Maybe he might just find her on the island. I mean, I guess she's still on the island, but when he finds her, what state is she going to be in? You know, that's interesting. Like, but
I forgot her arms and legs are going to grow back, right?
Yeah,
they have grown when we see her.
Yeah, they
again.
have grown.
She blacks out, and we don't see exactly what happens. But when she wakes up again,
specifically have like crazy regen ability, right?
Okay.
Yeah, roots in general, and yeah, like especially if you have if they have eaten something, then it also like kickstarts.
Especially if they've eaten a ghoul, which you probably did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting bit where she is like an animal killer, and it's funny that she gets tips from the other guy who also tortures animals.
It's like
that was really fun. For a second, I thought, oh, it wasn't him all along; it was her. But then I was like, oh no, they just both do it, and Susie
both of them.
Susie takes shit. Yeah, she collects tongues in a jar, and then they mention Torso's tongue is missing.
Yeah, how many tongues there are in that jar?
They look like
the poor cats.
They look like more like human tongues. Like cat tongues don't look like that. They're very flat.
They're too big.
Yeah, they're too big. Drawn. So for a second I was like, is she killing kids? Like, oh, but okay. But yeah,
I didn't think about that. It would be very hard to confuse a cat tongue with a human.
Yeah, but I was like, okay, whatever. But I thought it was quite well done. The like, you know, Torso's thing where he's like, he doesn't know what he wants. Like he's trying to play house, but he's also incredibly like violent and abusive. So I like his thing of like going flip flopping. I'm not even sure he was going to kill her by the end.
It's kept vague. If
I thought he might have just been another round of weird sexual torture.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, but I like that thing of like the visual of him like putting her in bed. There was echoes of stuff like I mentioned like Silence of the Lambs because she's like in the hole. There's like a Misery kind of like removing all someone's limbs just to keep them there. You know, if effectively done, like an interesting thing that we hadn't really seen before. So I was happy with that. In the middle of sporadically between a bunch of fights, it becomes a bit more, you know, a bit less strong.
It breaks up the monotony.
Yeah.
That also backstory just reminded me of Pun Pun, since we read that recently again.
Oh, really?
So yeah, just the stuff with where they're in the tent and thinking about going to the ocean and shit like that.
That's true. Yeah.
That section reminded me of Pun Pun. Yeah. I like this Mutsuki stuff. I like people going crazy, and if it's depicted that way, and all suppressed memories.
Yeah, suppressed memories sort of stuff.
Weird
stuff.
Yeah.
What other? I'm trying to remind. Oh, yeah. I did not care for the Rize stuff in this. I know that's like become a meme at this point almost.
It was just too quick and way too late. I mean, it
felt like a by
I'm sure
the
it
way.
makes sense in the story, but yeah, we're 5 levels removed from the basic story at this point. We don't need a tangent with Rize.
Turns out Shachi was her dad. It's like
the Rize stuff. I had to think what you even meant. And then,
I was thinking the backstory and this whole thing of like Shachi is like kind of her adoptive dad, and I was like, that's like fine. I have no objections to it. Do I also think it? But is that something where I'm like, oh my god, that's crazy, that's amazing? I'm just like, whatever, fine, sure, why not?
It also does more for Shachi than it does for Rize.
I guess so, but it's like Shachi, I had like almost forgotten about him. They mentioned his name, and I was like, he was sort of interesting, but he was more interesting just because he does cool kung fu. I don't really care that much for him emotionally. That's what I mean, kind of like talking about like backstories. It was like, I guess I'm okay with clicking through a few more pages because you want to tell me about this guy and Rize, but unnecessary. Yeah.
Don't know what. I think he's just insecure about Rize and felt like he underutilized her the first time around.
Do you think he's doubling down on like, no, she was totally meant to be like this pivotal thing and not at all the inciting incident that never shows up again? It's like...
Yeah, she was a nothing character. She was just a plot device.
Yeah, exactly.
People made fun of him for saying she was cute when she looked so jank, and he just keeps trying to redeem Rize as this concept.
I swear,
where he keeps bringing her back. She's not the linchpin holding the whole world together, especially at this point.
I still, for how much planning he puts in, the whole like Kano Rize fucking rebar falling thing to me is like the hockey of this. Where it's like this retcon thing where I will never for a second believe this was like meant to be. It just smacks of like going back and giving something importance that was fine as it was. Like when they were talking about like this guy being like, oh, the clown dude, he definitely had a hand in like the accident of the steel beams. I was like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? The steel beams are nothing. The steel beams are a silly little contrivance that to explain how someone might get squashed and get an organ transplant. And now we're adding this like almost like Aizen observing Ichigo during his whole life sort of like importance to, this was a very important event that a lot of people were involved in, and machinations and organizations were involved in dropping steel beams on Rize and Kaneki at the same time. It's like, really?
It's like he's a 9/11 truther for his own story.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this conspiracy that trying to convince me like, oh yes, what a flawless plan all these organizations thought of. We'll wait for the moment where they happen to pass underneath these bars, and then we'll drop them perfectly. I will say this, so that it doesn't kill him.
It has nothing to do with organizations. It was purely personal.
The clown guy and Kano that works for Aogiri and Rize, who that was part of all these different gangs.
The steel beam dropping things.
I know, but those were all involved though. Like it kind of is to do with organizations,
like Kano
right?
Involved in that. That's like Kano
wasn't he?
Getting Rize isn't. No, that's a result of the steel beams falling.
That's a result. Okay.
Yeah. That's how Kano gets the body, basically.
But I thought he like wanted to get the body, so it was like, because someone's dropped these steel beams on them.
No, it was just a thing that worked out well.
Okay.
But the reason for the steel beams dropping was we will get into it.
I'm sure it'll be just perfectly satisfying, and it will assuage all my doubts. I said between gritted teeth.
And I will quickly tag on that. I will say some of the stuff with the author and the confrontation between Kaneki and Arima and Kaneki and Hinami, I guess, that stuff was good, and I hope that matters more going forward.
Oh, yeah.
We'll also say we're about an hour in. We should probably move on.
Okay.
Yeah, given that we have hardly talked about the plot and everything, I have to say my favorite part in the entire series is in this section, which is the it may not be stylish but live panel. Like that's my favorite thing in the entire series.
All that stuff was great. Like the artwork was great. I loved all the Kaneki Arima fights. I liked all the interpersonal stuff, being like a father figure, and his like remembering his friend but not too much, and those panels where he was saying like one thing, like I'll stay back and defend him, but underneath it said like I'm gonna die a cool death. Like Green was saying, this is like the stuff we want. We want to know stuff in Kaneki, Arima, and it was coasting a bit on how good the finale was of part 1, but that's fine because it did enough to subvert it in a way where it was like, it was like a clever like echo of that, but with a different result to the fight. Cool, great. All that stuff was really good. Like him chopping his legs off, and that I loved all that stuff, but we were like jumping between it and all this other stuff I cared about less. Yeah, like the finale of Tokyo Ghoul, it also jumped around a bit, but like when it got to that bit, it really was like it was all like in a row. It slowed down to focus on this big boss fight. Yeah.
We have like a stretch of 10 chapters or so before we get the conclusion to the Arima fight, which is like he should not have done that. He should have just kept that in one stretch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I guess those two were like my strongest positives, were like the Mutsuki stuff and especially the Arima stuff. All that stuff was very cool.
Those are the two cool parts.
Yeah, but they were a bit diluted by stuff with like the fight in the woods with Juju, all that stuff like that. I was like, who cares? The guy Eto chasing around the goofy clown man as he does, and then he's like, I've got Rize cells too, bitch. We've all got Rize cells. I was like, oh, shut up. Live.
I do like the Yomo stuff though. Like that's also fine.
Oh
like the Yomo backstory.
Yeah, that was good. But definitely this batch definitely stood out as beginning to have problems. I can see now why Jaws, like the stuff Jaws has been saying. I may have been wrong in my prediction that I would like more, because at this point, this part definitely I liked less than Tokyo Ghoul, the first part as a whole. Unfortunate, but I'm still curious to see. I'm still surprised we're like less than halfway through. Like that is nuts. Like this, so much stuff feels like finale-ish.
So I will talk about it once.
I have no idea what the fuck is going to happen from here on out.
It does not. It's not strange that it feels weird that this is only the halfway point.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well,
if no one else
I've talked about the main stuff I was thinking of, so.
Yep.
Green, what manga did you want us to read? Yeah.
I assume we're talking Kurosawa now, so
yes.
Yeah. It was until 49, 36 to 49, something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Sounds right. Yeah. How did you guys, and especially Michi, feel about this?
I mean, I will have to say it's so far the funniest part.
Yeah,
the final.
Yeah, probably
I
the
don't know
funniest.
how many.
Really?
It's definitely it has the most, like 3 of the funniest things that happen in the manga so far happened in like those last 3 chapters also.
Yeah.
Fucking moving castle is the most genius thing ever.
Yeah, him saying that, I was like, is that a translation like thing? No way. I was like, that's fucking nuts. Yeah.
I mean, the curse isn't in there, or it's different, but I think he is referring to Holt's moving castle, no matter
really
what
funny.
translation.
Just to start out, should probably cover, it fell a little awkwardly because there's kind of the little mini arc in the beginning that fits in more with what happened last time before we get to the part after that, which is him hanging out with, is it Nakane?
To me, it feels like a very natural progression.
But
it's a natural progression, but it fits in more.
Ideally, we would have done.
It's more it feels like a continuation of what we did last time, is what I mean. Like it still fits perfectly fine.
Ideally, we would have done like the son and father thing at the end of last stretch, and then started the stretch with the guy coming back. Yeah.
I still think last time had a good ending point. But
that's true.
True. It was a compromise, but one of the people that Kurosawa inspired with his manly heroic virality in the family restaurant decides to take on his bullies
with a knife.
With a knife. he steals his dad's combat dagger thing,
ceremonial dagger.
His ceremonial dagger, and just decides he's gonna go show those guys who's boss. And naturally, the person shows up.
I remember hearing this a long time ago as like a statistic, but it was like, it's something like 80% of people who try to defend themselves with a knife end up getting stabbed with their own knife. And I was thinking that the whole time, like, it's real easy for like big bully guys who are stronger than you to just wrestle a knife out of your hand and stab you multiple times with it. It's not a good self-defense weapon, really.
Yeah, I mean, I am of the opinion there is never a good reason to pull a knife. There are sometimes good reasons to pull a gun.
Yeah, a gun is a way better self-defense weapon because you can hit the person before they get within take your weapon and use it against you range. Like, that's why guns are good, and they fire really fast, so the person has no time to react. Like, a knife is very easy to dodge, and kind of.
I mean,
I'm not saying it's super. I'm not saying anyone that you meet with a knife will be able to turn it against you. I'm just saying, a lot of the times in this kind of situation where it's like someone you're afraid of, there's a good chance you will be nervous, and they might be able to, even if you get a few cuts on them, it might end in you just like falling on top of each other and the knife stabbing you or them in a weird way.
Yeah, it's not like you poke someone with a knife and they just
stop.
fucking explode.
They give up. Exactly. It's like they might just get them angrier and they might fucking stab you back a bunch of times. Like it's a very dangerous form of defense.
Yeah, it's not the most effective path to victory.
So but Kurosawa thankfully shows up to save the day, and in his usual manner, he is just like bumbling and just being like, at first he's just trying to be like, oh god no, stop your son, and then the guy's like, he's a real man. They let him go up the stairs, and then instantly regrets it. They're like behind the bush, and he's like, call 911 now, dude. And he's like, no, they haven't even done anything. It's like, dude, I know this is gonna go bad. And then he tries to scare them off, but he fucks up by it. He manages to for a bit. It's really funny. He's being like, I don't want to fight after all, and then he's realized way before them that his stick is just like stuck. I like that bit where they're like teenagers and they're like, you're an adult, and he's like, I don't give a shit. Then they realize it too, and they just start kicking the shit out of him, and I was like, that's my Kurosawa. Yeah.
I mean, it's peak Kurosawa, as a moment where he just it's the goofiest freaking thing. He finds like a stick. It's not even a 2x4. It's like a 2x2. He just finds a little square rod, and then he's like, okay, I'll beat them up with this stick. But then he goes, wait, it's not even that it would be more effective if he used it a different way. He just goes, you know what? It'll look a lot cooler if I pull it out
he kind of wants the element of surprise, but also kind of intimidation.
Yeah, and then he has this whole speech where his hand is on the stick. And he's saying like, I'm going to use restraint and not beat you up with this stick.
Yeah,
if
he's
you
like,
do what I say. And then they realize at the very end, wait, the stick is stuck, isn't it?
That's my favorite, funniest bit is when he suddenly goes, you know what? It's best if we don't fight, and everyone falls over comically. And then he's like, you guys have family and stuff, and they're like kind of buying it, but then they're like, wait a second. And then they're like, he's called Sensei. So yeah, it's a funny back and forth. And then the hilarious punchline at the end is like the dad is the one that ends up having the the cool hero moment when he assails them with a baseball bat, and then he's like happy to leave with his son, and then Kurosawa was like, what the hell, what about me? And the police have arrived, and they're like pinning him to the floor, and he needs them to explain that this man is not in fact a maniac. But he is
and the very best part about it is, you know, when he showed up, Kurosawa had the great idea to take the knife away, you know, to get it out of the situation. Yeah. So when the cops are pinning him for the second time, he has a fucking knife.
Yeah, he has a knife on him. Yeah.
Just like the cops are zeroing in on him at this point. Is that guy who always has a knife and does weird, creepy stuff while having a knife.
Yeah, it gets given that it gets worse at the end of the section again.
Yeah, again, yeah. Man, I'm gonna say, Green, I didn't enjoy this stretch as much as you would like me to, probably. Like it went back to just like it just making me feel bad. Like I know I feel stupid every time I say that, because it's like that's the point. It's like, okay, yeah, the point of a, you know, like a lethal injection is to kill me. It doesn't mean I'm gonna enjoy injecting myself with it and being like, oh, it's fine, it's what it's meant to do. It's like I just didn't have a lot of fun in the whole pool section, let's call it. I was like, yeah, back here again. I had funny moments, like, and it was well done, but like I really enjoyed the kind of like slow escalation of like the last, you know, thing where it went from like boisterously inspiring everyone in the restaurants to like tactics and people bringing him things, and then it went from like this weird like Kaiji-esque like will they won't they fight thing to him realizing his strength, to having to fight a stronger guy, to enjoying the battling sort of, and then ending on a weird like stalemate. I found that very satisfying as like progress, and then he kind of got a win at the end, even if it was, but done in a way that was realistic, where it wasn't a total just like, oh, I'm really cool. It was like, oh, that was a really hard fought battle, but in the end he pulled through. This was just like him just like stepping on rakes and me just feeling really bad and being like, yeah, that's what would happen probably. The women start off really having fun with him, and then they hate him. By the end they're really happy he's gonna leave, and then this guy's just like being like super friendly with him for no reason because he just admires him so much, and he's kind of ruining his life and social standing. Yeah, he's the ambassador of Japan, and he's like ruining his standing at it, and I'm just cringing. I'm just like, here we are again. It's The Office with no laugh track, with no jokes. Like
I will say I wasn't necessarily expecting you to find this hilarious. I think it is compelling in that it is.
I'm not even saying funniness. I'm just saying I didn't enjoy it like in any way. Not just like I didn't think it was funny. Like I was experiencing it. I was reading it, and I was just being like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I warned you at the beginning.
Yeah. There are three things Kurosawa does during the manga, which even for him are bafflingly bad ideas, and it's almost hard to justify at all that he's doing it.
Swimming behind women's asses like a
the
shark.
First one. Yeah, the first one is him accidentally kidnapping the kid.
Yeah.
The second one is him having the intense internal debate about whether or not he should sleep with the middle schooler.
Oh, yeah.
And then, with very little prompting. And the third one is, he goes to this super exclusive pool party place. And it's not even 100% clear what he's doing. He's just harassing the women in the pool somehow,
he's like
I guess,
chasing them with a lecherous look and looking at their asses.
Yeah, or maybe he's trying to swim in a way where his head will bump into their butts, and he can pretend. It seemed like
he headbutted them. Yeah, and then was like, oh, that was an accident. I'm just swimming, right? He. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. This is the third of the holy trinity of bizarre, ridiculous decisions that even I can't justify that Kurosawa makes.
Well, that's it. Like that's why I find it.
Me.
That's why I find it like frustrating, because I'm just observing this guy be like retarded and just having like it's making me feel like I've done this stupid things, and I would never do such a stupid thing, nor do I plan to.
Nietzsche just thinks too highly of himself. He can't empathize with someone who jumps in a pool and starts
I wouldn't
chasing
open my
women.
eyes underwater in a swimming pool to begin with. Like, I wouldn't be underwater looking at things. I would be like, ow, my eyes, there's chlorine in them. He wasn't wearing goggles. Like,
he's
just
the strongest man.
yeah,
He's
exactly.
impervious to
I'm
damage.
not. It's just like I mean, it was comical that he was like having this existential crisis underwater, where he's like on his knees and elbows, like at the bottom of the pool, being like, I suck. And it is in ways kind of funny that like the school delinquent guy is just like the most like together guy that just has like money and women and speaks English.
Oh, I'm making so much money, I can't even spend all of it. And it's so
it could sound crazy. Like, yeah, that's
Kurosawa's
funny.
never had $3,000 in his account in his entire life, and this guy makes 3 times as much as Kurosawa.
Just seeing the women like slowly lose respect for him and hate him. It's like the author is punishing me. Like, why? I didn't do any of this. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve to feel vicarious like shame and cringe as if I had like walked into the women's bathroom.
About suffering, man. Yeah,
but it's making me suffer. It's like giving me vicarious pain. It's like observing a friend or a family member do something really embarrassing in public. It's like I don't want that, man. I don't want any part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just
like
it's just
like going out with your friend and he speaks without using contractions.
I like enjoying things. I like enjoying myself. I know it's weird. It's this radical approach I have to things. It's like, and that doesn't mean everything has to be happy-go-lucky. I enjoy things being dark and painful and sad too. I just don't understand, like, I just don't have that bone in me that like enjoys seeing someone like embarrass themselves and just be like pathetic and cringeworthy. It's like,
so yeah, you're okay with negativity as long as it's romanticizable.
Exactly.
You don't like just cringe failure.
Yeah, just
what
realistic.
The fuck is wrong
like,
with this?
yeah, this is what would happen. Like, this is so embarrassing. Exactly. Like, yeah, I like romantic, like dramatic, sort of heightened art versions of sad of like uncomfortable things. Yeah, like that Mutsuki flashback thing. Like, yeah, it's also uncomfortable to see a dad, rape his daughter, but it's like it feels like more distance than this. This is just like POV, like you strapped a GoPro to the most like just uncomfortable man, and you're just forced to, this is the only channel on your television. It's like, I would switch videos. I'd be like, oh god, this is I don't, it's like when we tried to show RA like accidents and stuff, and he just feels bad and he wants to watch anything else. That's how I felt. It's like I'm being forced to watch this man embarrass himself over and over again, and I can't look away.
This is the realist. This is how the Truman Show would actually go. The guy would
exactly. Like, that's all.
I mean, I don't see this as even pure comedy. It was pretty funny because, they're in this pool with all these diplomat families, where he's chasing all these women around and they're going like, that's the head of that's the Saudi Arabian princess.
Yeah. It's like he's going to cause an international incident.
They actually scream like, he's going to destroy the national economy. Get him out.
Yeah.
And then
and it's just
Nausicaä,
a terrible
the
idea
coolest guy
on the other guy's
in the world
side to just bring Kurosawa. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all he knows about Kurosawa is that he showed up to beat up a bunch of
and that he's the greatest man who ever lived.
And that he's the greatest man. Yeah, and he's just so on point. He jumps in, he concocts this he speaks in Italian about how Kurosawa lost his contact lens, and that's why he's in there. Then Kurosawa goes in the women's bathroom by mistake, and he just like screams for Nausicaä to come save. Is that his fucking name?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, he screams for Nausicaä to come save him, and he does again.
A bunch of guys just jump in the pool in their shirts.
Yeah.
Stop that man.
There's a huge dry cleaning bill that he caused inadvertently through this. Yeah.
He's making the girls feel uncomfortable. Also, it's hilarious to see Fukumoto try and draw attractive women.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say that. There's even a part
he gives them
where
like cutesy anime eyes in one part, but he keeps their like freakish faces, and the main girl has like the one I guess I would consider slightly cuter, I don't know, the more memorable one has like a big gap in her lower teeth, and it's like, what? I don't know.
There's a part where Kurosawa, because he has this lengthy pity party,
yes,
where he's talking about like, I've been excluded and deprived my whole life. It's only natural that when these things are in front of me, I'll lose control for a couple of minutes.
Right.
Anyone would do the same.
Fucking middle schooler.
And then he goes, I've always been deprived of the sweeter things in life, and it's just a bunch of pretty Fukumoto's version of shoujo faces, which they all look like Sasuke when he's leaning forward and saying I see.
What does he equate his youth to? Like something sour, like some fruit? Something like that. Like oh, why was I sipping like prune juice for my youth or something, like something. It's like, what?
I mean later there's a part where the girls are doting on Nausicaä still after he has made a fool of himself.
God.
And he goes like, I'm a little thirsty too, when they give him this cool drink. And they hand him the worm juice they gave him earlier when they still liked
They're
it.
like, why are you still hanging out with this caveman? When he says when he feels so bad, he's like, there's one part where he's just like with her eyes closed, and one of the girls is like, he's probably imagining perverted things. And then when he tries to leave on his own, they just like jump up and go like, hooray! And he's like, are you that happy? And then the guy's like, I left those hoes for bros. And then just sit around and just like talk about how like he just like grills him over like how his life is so much better than his, and he should like value women more. And I was just like, this is just awful. This is just terrible. Like I feel so bad. Yeah.
How did you feel? Did you feel for Nausicaä at all when he's given the speech of like, no, you don't understand, Kurosawa.
No.
You're something special. You're the coolest guy. I can get sexy bitches anywhere, but a guy who'll like fight to the bitter end and has your sense of justice, like, that's rare.
I gotta say, I feel like Fukumoto slightly cheated here. Because I don't think
a little bit.
I don't think he envisioned all these things about Nausicaä during their first fight. There was the inkling of like, oh, he appreciates like Kurosawa and gets a fighter's respect as like a different human. I did not see him as like a ladies' man, ambassador of Japan, rich aristocrat guy during
the literal best man.
When he was grinning evilly and swinging around a bat and like living for battle and jumping on a wall last arc, like that. These things, I feel like afterwards he wanted to play more with the character, and he thought like, what if I do this with him? And I was like, that felt a bit silly.
I mean, I will say Nausicaä is not all that realistic as a character.
Yeah.
Where he's this suave, sophisticated, rich
keeps being
kid
equated
and
to a
also
Martian.
a thug.
Yeah.
I mean, they all but say they try to retcon Nausicaä a bit by having him say, "Oh man, I just kind of get roped into these, battles to the death often. It's just it's something that happened. It's nothing personal." And he even says, "Well, yeah, I was holding the bat, but I was just going to tap you a bit. I wasn't going to hurt you."
Yeah, that was silly. I gotta say, the best drawing in this stretch was his loving rendition of Ambassador Magma, who I am knowledgeable of as a Tezuka fan.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know who that was. I assumed it was a common writer type thing.
Yeah, I think he comes from Mars, or maybe he comes from a whole new planet called Magma. But he's just this nice, like kind of original robot, pre-Gundam big robot fighty man, kind of inspired Mazinger and stuff like that. He's also kind of a Super Sentai sort of thing. So I was happy to see a funny drawing of him, and that Kurosawa would think of him because he's an old man. He's like, ambassadors, I guess I only know Ambassador Magma, who's from space. So that was funny.
Well, because they're all sitting around going, yeah, we all know ambassadors, right? And he's like, yeah, I know an ambassador too.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck that was about either. Like, is that a thing? Like, do hip young people in Japan know ambassadors? Rich. I guess they're rich.
I mean, I know in New York, ambassadors are all over the goddamn place. So if you're rich in New York. I've heard of people in New York complain that because ambassadors have, special privileges. They'll just like park in illegal parking places because they don't have to pay the tickets and stuff like that. There are places where there are a lot of them, so if you're rich in Tokyo, maybe.
Not impossible. It just felt weird. I know the point was to feel weird because you're supposed to be in Kurosawa's shoes, and he feels weird. A guy just like invites him out with girls, and then it like fits him in like a Hawaiian shirt, and he's like, "Are you fucking with me?" And then they just open the doors, and there's like this indoor pool party. I'm gonna say the arc it did redeem itself at the end.
Okay, you liked the end a little bit.
Oh yeah, I definitely liked
where he starts manifesting his samurai power.
Well, it begins with a classic Kurosawa move, like getting drunk and thinking that like inanimate objects are giving you like life advice. that's his MO. Is to get way drunk and then go up to Taro or go up to a poster or go up to a book about animals or go up to the statue of the poster outside of a pub and just be like, "This is the most important thing," and cry his eyes out and immediately rewrite his entire personality. I love it when people are like, everything I've known up to this point, that was all stupid. This poster, now this is what I'm talking about. And yeah, like that was great. Like it's a hilarious poster telling you not to drink and not to be lecherous to women. And it's like all the things he does all the time.
It's like a samurai never pisses on the floor, and he's like, "You're goddamn right."
A samurai never gets in a car to fuck a middle schooler. A samurai never kidnaps a child and while he has a knife in his bag. And his takeaway from this poster is to cover himself in nails and get I did they say this or did I come up with this? But I assumed he poked all these holes into the steel pipe to not have to worry about the weight fatigue problem he had in his first fight.
Oh, which is also clever. I assume maybe the holes helps it go through the air faster as well. Yeah. But I'm not sure about that one.
Okay, but that makes sense to me. Yeah, he's got his crazy weapon and his philosophy, his worldview he's arrived at is, I may be like not the strongest fighter and I'm a bit of a coward, but you know, I'm gonna give it my all, and if you're gonna fuck with me, I'm gonna take you down with me. God damn it, I'm gonna fucking kamikaze this bitch.
Yeah, don't forget his secret weapon.
That's the part. This is the thing about Kurosawa. He always finds the way to take things just a little too far to where even the people on his side are like, "What the fuck was that?" It would have
been pretty cool, even if it's kind of unfair, crazy bullshit to cover yourself in nails. But it would have been like, I did not know about the poop. We just watched an episode of Naruto where Naruto farts in Kiba's face mid-fight. So I was ready to the mindset of like, there's some stupid stuff in here. And then him actually like, it's not just poop. I mean, he picks it up with his hand, like ungloved, and he's like throwing it in the air like a baseball. He's like being like, "Yeah, I've got this poop, and I'm gonna throw this poop at you." And then the fact that the sumo guy is like, not sumo, the wrestler guy is like scared that he might get an infection in his wounds from the poop.
I mean,
no, it's realistic. It's just funny.
I mean, this is the thing about Kurosawa at this point. It's not even that Kurosawa is a super effective fighter. He's just so off his rocker that people are afraid of him.
Yeah, like he's got nothing to lose. Like there's nothing more dangerous than a maniac who has no fear for his own life.
Imagine being confronted with this fight. You're just trying to extort a teenager who does have more money than sense. And then a fucking psycho comes out of the shadows with a bat and nails and shit, screaming I was going to drag you the hell. Oh, I would also be afraid.
And before that, he does this like where is he speaking from? Like lengthy speech on tisk tisk tisk, how low the wrestlers have fallen.
That's my favorite part.
Back in my day, when I watched WWE, essentially, when I watched fake silly heel fucking the wrestler fights. Those men were heroes that inspired me to do nothing with my life and be a construction worker. And and now I see you guys just care about babes and someone looking cooler than you. For shame, America.
He literally makes the case and seems to earnestly believe that professional wrestlers are like the soul of Japan, and they carry the dreams of the people with them. And it's like there is no greater bond of trust on earth than between professional wrestlers and normal people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I feel like Fukumoto also kind of believes this a little
funny.
bit.
Well, the wrestlers kind of believe it. Like, he's getting to them with these arguments. Like, they're feeling bad. They're like, shut up, stop telling me the thing I know to be true.
You're supposed to be our role models, god damn it.
Yeah, Japan's national pride is in the fake wrestlers. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
A steel pipe with the nails in it.
I hope you feel vindicated, because a while ago you said obviously this is going to turn into, the Yakuza or something, extorting people.
Him
and
getting into
like
more and more dangerous fights, essentially, rather than just punching middle schoolers. Yeah, a little gift from this morning. Yeah, it's like
that's the most unhinged thing.
that was really weird at the end too, when the guy is like, "Oh, that dog poop," and he happily approaches it. Would that have been any better? I really do think. I don't know. I kind of feel like my own poop is slightly less gross to me than just a dog's turd on the street.
Yeah,
like,
but
that's
to
vile.
other people.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Would you? I don't know, man. Like, it's if it was like a tiny little dog turd, maybe like a pellet. But yeah, just like a huge turd. I don't care what it came from. I mean, manure would be better. Like, I would prefer to be thrown horse poo at me than human or dog, but still, like, the guy is like really weirdly like fine. I thought the joke was gonna be he thought it was like a fake poo, like a like one of those like joke poos, and then he approaches it, and then okay, I really didn't need the policeman licking the poo, like
yeah.
Them
I mean, the
talking
cops are
about
getting
shoving
so
it.
fucking sick of this guy.
He's not even like, I'm gonna throw this poo at you. He's like, I'm gonna shove it in your mouth. I'm gonna shove it in your orifice. I'm gonna shove it up your ass so it mingles with your
poop,
shit.
with my poo.
Yeah,
with my hand.
I mean, that is hilarious. Just how far away he's going. Yeah, he starts swinging and he's saying he's fucking. I thought he was gonna go for Mobile Fortress Gundam or something, but no, he goes for I'm Howl's Moving Castle, which makes no sense. But he is a crazy man, and yeah,
I mean this convincingly. This is a convincing depiction of someone so unhinged that you just need to run away from them.
Yeah.
It's like in the way like a deranged. It's like how a deranged street person can be more dangerous than a prize fighter or something, because the first is rational and the second is not.
Even his allies run away, and then he gets arrested with good cause, honestly. Like,
this one's hard to explain.
This one, not only, I mean, he didn't make that cop lick poo, but I mean, he might as well. Carrying,
I mean, he
just
had
like
to take the time to make this.
It's
shit.
unsanitary to carry just like feces around in public, and being covered in nails is a hazard to everyone. Like, if you just fall over on a kid, you will kill them.
I mean, at this point, the cops have his number on.
They need to be
speed dial.
Yeah, like eyes on Kurosawa.
He maybe kidnapped a child with a knife. Then he was instigating a fight with a knife, and then he beat up middle schoolers.
Then
he made armor and chased around professional wrestlers with shit and nails.
This man is not to be trusted, honestly. But strong start, strong end. I really did sag in the middle for me.
Man, you were just too uncomfortable.
I was just too uncomfortable. I just don't enjoy like getting secondhand pain from this man.
Yeah, it was interesting. Also, early on, we kind of glossed over it. I hope I'm remembering this in the right place. But before they get into the stuff with the dad and the knife, and trying to get the help the middle schooler, there's a bit of a part where he is acting more confident at the job site.
Yeah. Yes.
That was at the beginning, right?
Yeah, that was at the start.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, he has a guy who gets a bit of a rivalry going with him. He's like, really
you were
frustrated.
worried he was gonna be a bully, and it didn't really go there.
Yeah, no.
He's just acting more jovial and outgoing and being like, "Let's get this, guys." Claps his hands.
His reputation got a bit out of hand, where people think he's like this. It's hilarious to me how repeatedly I keep thinking that their qualm is going to be that he is like, that guy's such a bad guy. He keeps beating up kids. But they really don't care. They're just scared he'll beat them up because they also see it as like a show of strength that you would fight a bunch of middle schoolers. I mean, they kind of switch it a bit by saying it's like a big mob and he's outnumbered. Okay, fine. But like, they really don't seem to care in this. Like, ages are just thrown out the window in this manga, which is funny because it's like very realistic. So it makes me think how weird Japan is. Like, they don't think like their main worries about sleeping with middle schoolers are like about being caught, and their main worries about beating up middle schoolers is how many there are. Like, no one has just like an idea of just like, that is just an objectively like, no, we do not hit, like 14-year-olds and we do not sleep with them. It's all this is like, oh well, tell me the details. It's like, whereas in the West it would just be like, no specifics would justify a man kicking the shit out of a bunch of middle schoolers normally. It's like,
yeah, I don't need to hear the specifics. I know who's at fault.
I know. I was going to mention.
I mean, Japan has the cultural thing where Japan, in ways you're expected to grow up very quickly, but then in ways you're expected to kind of stay a kid forever. Where Japan has a thing where you're supposed to crush, middle schoolers with these crazy impossible expectations, but then you're allowed to just live at home your entire life if you fuck up.
Of a salary man from an early age, kind of, which is a very like feudal, medieval, historical. Like, historically there were no teenagers. Like, you're a child and then you're an adult, just a small, weak one that is starting to work. But that's it. There's no.
And needs to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I was gonna say something and I forgot. Oh yes, this is last thing I wanted to mention. Odd coming from me, I know, but the art is getting better, which is strange.
Oh my god,
it is. He's doing like more like more interesting layouts, more daring, more bold like expressions, and more confident. Sort of like, he's really got Kurosawa down now, like, and he has much more like expressive faces on everyone. Everything looks sort of more solid, cleaner. There's less jank looking. Like, it looks like, this is what I imagined the manga would look like from the start, if that makes sense. Like, it's looking closer to like Kaiji the anime sort of. It looks better. It looks good for what it is. Like, very confident. I like that. I didn't because he's so experienced. I kind of expected that to just be, because this isn't like his first manga or anything, so I expected the art style to remain. But this is like, I like how it looks now. It looks funnier. It makes the punches land harder because everything looks more robust, kind of. So yeah, good job, Fukumoto. Yeah. The babes don't look.
Hell
any
yes.
Better, but
I don't think. Yeah, you're asking too much.
Yeah.
Some things are impossible.
Well,
yeah.
Shit. Do you want to say anything else about this?
I mean, yeah, Jaws, do you have anything? You were a little quiet, and you seem to like it more. So if you want to say I'm right real quick, that'd be awesome.
As I said, the final part is definitely the funniest part, like the most entertaining. I definitely do also understand Michi's feelings on like the middle part, the swimming pool stuff. That was a little hard to read.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean that's intended. It's nothing major in that case.
That's the thing. Like, if you make something intentionally hard to get through, like if Green, like a noise album, like harsh noise, like that's hard to listen to, and that's the point. So people enjoy that. But if I told Green to listen to it and he was like, "Man, that was really hard to listen to," I wouldn't be like, you just gotta. I'm not saying anyone's doing this to me. I'm just saying, like, that would be something I would totally understand, is just being like, yeah, totally, I get that if you just don't enjoy harsh noises and you don't find them musical or melodic at all, then yeah, that's probably quite painful for you to go through, even if that was the intended, that meaning of it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, overall, I enjoyed this part. This was probably wasn't my favorite. I mean, the ending is definitely my favorite part.
The ending is
the
up there.
manga,
I think I overall like the last, everything to do with like getting revenge on the middle schoolers has been my favorite part so far. But still going strong, better than the initial part, for sure.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I mean it's fair because I find this part hard to watch, but still captivating. You just found it hard to watch, and make it go away, please, make it stop.
Yeah.
I am curious about this next stretch. I've been reading Kurosawa very quickly after we do these, actually, just because I'm always trying to remember what's going to happen next, because I remember a lot of what happens, but not the order exactly. I have a feeling there's some good stuff coming up this next stretch, though, and if not, I'll just keep going until it does.
Kind of crazy that we're like halfway through already or something.
Yeah.
Kurosawa was not super long.
No.
Yeah, we're almost done with Nausicaä as well.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, real close.
How many volumes is Nausicaä?
7.
There's only one left.
Oh, fuck. Oh, we are almost done.
Yeah, last one is a bit like longer than their standard one, but yeah, that's it.
I was reading that, or I guess we'll just jump into Nausicaä.
Yeah, I guess
I was reading that, and I was actually wondering, how the fuck was this a movie? I mean, how long is this going to go on? But I guess if it ends here, I mean, I'm sure they truncated it quite a bit, right?
Oh, dude, the movie covers like 20% of what you've read. Like, it really is.
Really?
It's not a case of like it includes all the scenes. It's like literally like there are no Doroks. There are no worm handlers. There is no forest people. There is no the priest characters. There is no Miralupa. There is no emperor. None of that stuff in the movie. It's just like a kind of a conflict between Nausicaä and Kushana's peeps, and then Kushana like gets a god warrior, and there's a bit of Omu. There's like the scene with like the Omu in the lake, kind of. Yeah, it really is just like a weird like condensed, concentrated, like minimal alternative version with a sort of happy ending. Yeah, like it resembles the story very little. Which is weird because it's made by the same guys, but
I've never seen the movie, but I can say the manga is way better.
It is, but the movie is still worth it. Like the movie for its own, for what it is. If you hadn't read the manga, you would just be like, that's a very good movie. Like RA loves it, and he has never read the manga. The manga's definitely better. But yes, very cool. Well, shit, this volume was pretty fucking crazy, I gotta say.
I mean, actually, not that much happens.
Not much happens, actually, but there was a lot of like crazy stuff.
It's a very, it's a very natural continuation of what happened last time, I think. Yeah, it was good. I guess it didn't progress the plot super, but now that I know we're coming towards the climax, it all feels appropriate. The most memorable thing, in a weird way, how the weird priest guy with the dented head, the good bad guy,
Shiraka,
him being Shiracha, him being chained to the rock and Nausicaä helping. I don't know why, that was just really compelling. I like how the bad guys all have this complexity, or if nothing else, every faction has just one guy in it that is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I like how even the creepy dented head evil monk guy with the dark nefarious priest, even they have a cool dude, and Nausicaä goes back for him. It's like, that's cool. I like that.
There is no all the organizations, all the factions in this kind of have their really good days and then really bad days. Like, one minute you're the oppressive priests under the command of this shadowy figure, then now Miralupa is more of a sympathetic figure, and his priests are now like kind of martyrs who are just being massacred, with no trial. Like, that was, I know I keep always bring up how gruesome this is, but he's like chained to this altar, and there's like the heads of his comrades are just like on top, and some of them are like on pikes, and he's being stoned to death. And he's like shouting, "Come, fucking, is that how hard you can throw, lol?" Just being like, "Kill me." And Nausicaä like lands on the altar, and she like kicks aside like a head, like a priest head, and it's just like giving this fucking speech about she's It's a pretty fucking nuts scene. But what happens at the beginning? It's like it's Nausicaä kind of gave herself into the Omu to see like the heart of the Omu, and now she's like in a weird sort of stasis coma. Yeah, inside of the serum. Yeah, serum. Yeah, and we get this cool like extended dream sequence. Yeah, which I like quite a lot, and with the Emperor's brother's a ghost.
Yeah, he's a naked old man.
Yeah,
I mean, he just reminds me of Gollum in this.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of. In the next chapter, there's a part that reminds me a lot of the World of Edina, the Moebius comic, and his design here
I
is
would
like
try
this
to
old
enunciate
man.
a bit more if you can.
Oh, sorry. Something in my teeth. I was saying. The next volume has a part which reminds me of The World of Edina, which is a comic by Moebius, and this design of Merlupa as like this disheveled old man also reminded me a lot of like there's like a Moebius comic called like The Horny Goof or something, where it's like this naked man with like a big nose that runs around and has like big feet. It looked like that a lot. So I thought that was funny. But yeah, that was quite heartwarming. His I don't know.
Yeah.
He got killed like. Yeah, unceremoniously by his brother, and now he gets sort of a little redemption where he's kind of this guy who was kind of trying to hold things together, and he had good intentions to begin with. He just kind of became corrupted by the society and time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was nice. Good send-off. I'd forgotten that was in the manga. Like, last volume, I was just like, I must have forgotten he just, like, gets killed like that. But that was nice. Yeah, what else?
Oh, he also looks a bit like a Netero in that panel.
He does. He's got like the big lobes and the round nose. He got like the pear nose. Yeah.
I thought about how Jaws mentioned Christianity a little bit. Nausicaä she's not a very Japanese protagonist. I mean, she is in ways, but in a lot of ways, it's the story and Nausicaä's role in it. It's almost a weird mishmash of Eastern and Western.
Yeah.
Spirituality, because this pure savior who redeems everyone, that's really not an Eastern idea.
No.
And harmony with nature is not really a Western idea. It's interesting. It's almost like Siddhartha, that book by Hesse.
It reminded me a lot of Christians, like biblical, specifically when like that scene with the priest and they're stoning him. I was like, oh yeah, this is totally like Life of Brian. And let's talk about her apostle. She gets like this big following, and people are like overthrowing their oppressors, like the
it's like the Life of Brian or the Bible, either one.
No, the Bible is based on the Life of Brian.
Exactly.
Don't know this. It was interesting seeing. It definitely feels like end game stuff. Like we're past the. What do they call it? The Daikai show. All the powers have like changed now. Like somebody, like all the land is fucking overtaken by fungus now. The worm handlers are like, the land is ours now. The earth belongs to the meek shall inherit the earth.
It's suckers. Cool. They're all united. And
then they seem kind of bad, but then they go after. They adopt Nausicaä as like their figure. That's very comical. Like Kurosawa, like looking around, where is she? Where's Nausicaä? And he shows up like merrily strolling with like 7 worm handlers behind her, and she's all like, "I'm a human just like you." And like that was very Christian again, like touching her to feel like that was almost like Thomas the
that's another thing. The God, she's the God made flesh, and her having blood and warmth is a big deal.
It's important.
We got to see the bit with her comforting the old men with her breasts.
That's right.
I thought that was theoretical. I didn't realize he actually did that, but I guess he did.
How about the little panel when she comes to Charuka, and she's like, "Where are your clothes? I'm a priest, you know. I have to control myself." And then he closes his eyes, and then
That
he
jumped out to
throws
me.
a stone
The
in his
weird-
head, and is like, "Don't doze off." Yeah.
The weird part about that is I don't know why, because it's him. I don't know why he didn't just draw her naked in that.
I guess that would have been. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of in character for the priest to already find just the crop top to be way too much skin. So yeah,
Hey,
I could have seen her
I
just
guess
being
that's
naked.
true, but
That is kind of
Miyazaki
weird.
has never been shy about drawing naked
you don't have
girls
to
in
draw,
his stuff.
You don't have to draw the nipples. Just have like the breasts.
I was expecting a Sailor Moon situation
Yeah,
when
yeah,
he said that. I
exactly,
mean, I'm not
exactly.
mad, but whatever.
But I'm seething. No.
I'm not mad. I just noticed.
I also that also popped out to me because I went back to the panel when he said like, "Where are your clothes?" I looked back. Oh, is she naked? And then I was like, "No." And then her clothes get torn off by the by the Hydra. Oh, funny detail stuff with the Hydra. Okay, that's a good one. Like in the scene where Yupa is like stuck in the cell with all the Hydra, and the guy comes in to feed them, and the way he feeds them is he sticks like what do you call it,
funnel.
a funnel. Yeah, funnel in their head and just like sends this goop in, and then we get more great gore of just like the Hydra like ripping each other apart, and Yupa kicks like a guy into the Hydra pile. And they have this cool little world building where they use like their teeth to whistle, and there's always cool stuff like that. There was a lot of there was still more violence. I love violence. I love things exploding, arms flying all over the place.
That was flying.
Yeah, that was cool how we had the scene of Kushana coming out of the flames in the last volume, and the Emperor being like, my bride, and then now Nausicaä shows up out of the flames with a sword, and he's like, that's the cool thing about Nausicaä. I think this goes with like the thing Greens keeps saying, where it never tips to being like insufferable, like all the themes never become annoying. Like that's the thing with Nausicaä, is like she is this apostle thing who she even loves the filthy, dirty worm handlers. He tells them to take their masks off, and she doesn't care about this awful smell. Kurosawa does. But then when push comes to shove and there's a god warrior, she takes a fucking big sword and is like, I will slice your head off, Emperor. Yeah.
She briefly. The one thing I find a little bit disappointing about this section is how easily the Emperor is defeated and just gives up. And in the previous section, like Yupa mentioned that the helmet that he wears has like eyes on the back.
Oh yeah.
And in this section, Yupa just comes up from behind him and jumps and then kicks him in the face.
But he was in disguise as a guard. Maybe he thought he was running to jump over him to defend him.
God can do that. Anyway,
that's true.
It's just that the Emperor is like dealt with too easily, and it's just then seems to say, fuck it.
I don't know.
Just put all of this on Nausicaä.
That was a bit comical, the way he just is like, I give up. Yeah, after all of his I guess the loss of his Hydra hit him heavily. He gets his arm cut off and he's dying.
To know that he like modified his body to be like a Hydra, so he's also almost immortal or something.
Yeah, he's like a weird slow. The thing with Hydra is like they don't heal very fast. They just can survive insane amounts of damage. I think they need to be like fixed afterwards sometimes, but because when Yupa says they don't die, I don't think he means like they keep reforming their limbs. But I do love all the stuff with the God Warrior.
With the what?
The God Warrior, the big the big guy. The way it shoots laser beams. Like he shoots.
I didn't catch on to this the first time the God Warrior was shown as an organic robot, but this time it really feels like the Nausicaä manga inspired a lot of the Eva stuff for Anno.
Yeah, him just like holding her in the hand like that, and there being like a parental bond too.
The crouch position reminds me of the Feral, and
the
like
lasers are very. They're like distinctly like, we know this from the movie too, but it's very much a like screaming like shoot out a laser. That's very like Ramiel sort of thing. Yeah, and I love that idea of also like a laser goes through thing and explodes something in the distance. Like the mountain goes off and there's like a nuclear blast off in the distance. It's so fucking scary. And then she just smiles at him and it's like, it's okay, I'm fine. Stop exploding things.
Did either of you feel a little uncomfortable when it just straight up called him Mama?
I mean, I think you're supposed to,
maybe.
but I like that.
Okay.
I like it as a character trait because we've had a lot of baby symbolism with it where he's like in a womb and he was like kind of, when the emperor went to see him, he was like kind of, like doing the movements of a fetus. I do think it's a bit bullshit that we had this big scene with Asbel throwing the activator into the lake, and then him being like, I'll be damned if I let those guys go search the woods for it.
Did we actually see that? I thought he only said that.
We definitely saw it. He gets up when Nausicaä is asleep, goes to a lake, and then chucks something. We don't see the thing specifically land, which is like the saving grace. But it's a bit silly. Then he just shows up and is like, hey, yo, I never threw this by here. It just like chucks it up to her. It's like, oh, okay. And that's just the thing that stops the guy from being retarded. The God Warrior becomes like clever and complete with it.
Maybe if Kurosawa had called someone Mama.
No, boy.
Maybe then everything would have turned out
he
all
was
right.
on the verge of. What else? Great banter between the Emperor and. I think Jaws, you might be a bit sad to see him go just because his banter is so funny because he's just like this doesn't give a fuck laughing guy who just like strolls around. Does whatever he wants. And then like him and Kushada like talking about their wedding ceremony and shit.
And
so funny.
Like the instant rebellion by Kushana, which is not.
he goes out.
He
comes back in and he's like, all my men are dead by sword wounds, even though the ship's on fire. And she's like, hello, we've taken command of the ship. And he's like, capital. Sits down on his chair. What else? It was great to see Kurosawa come back and be. He doesn't do much, but it's just fun to see him. I like his little
less staff in this one.
Yeah, his little adventure on the bird was good. No fear.
Yeah, the no fear.
The no fear bird as soon as it's born. Man, I guess like you said, not a lot of stuff happened. It was just very. This is kind of like the. Yeah, a lot of this is setting up for the madness of the final volume. Like we have all the players kind of joining in one sort of space. Like there's a lot of like reuniting, like lots of groups meeting up, seeing each other, running to each other, and now we have the God Warrior is established. We have the crypts are coming up.
Very convenient that Nausicaä is on the same mountain that.
That was. At least we don't know how far that bird ran, and it is like it is a fun way to like actually make them that they would know that Nausicaä is nearby as have the bird react.
Yeah.
But it is a bit because you don't really know where people are landing up when they're on they just fly around and land somewhere. There is a map, but I don't like go back to it everything that happens. Yeah.
Right. And
Jaws, sorry. Gone.
Yeah, one thing we forgot before we forget that we forgot.
Well said.
Yeah, we see parts from the Valley of the Wind where we see the new Wind Rider girl and we see the door with the refugees, and they have to decide, do they want to attack them, do they want to accept them.
They have an old practice with the bread and all this stuff.
Yeah, the donut of peace was
big bread, yeah.
Such a weirdly specific. I enjoyed it. It was just odd.
Like the narration pointed out, it was nice to have just an episode of trust between humans when it's so much like the war has just devolved to just like pillaging and salting the earth and just destroying what you can't keep. We got that was a fun scene. Everything with the Emperor, and not that Emperor, the Tormekian.
Oh yeah,
the Tormekian Emperor with his sons, and he has like a silly like court jester that goes around making fun of stuff, and he like steps on his sons' faces. that was quite amusing. I like how there's like skyscrapers sort of in his city because it's like a really old one.
Once again reminds me of Berserk.
Yes, that was all cool.
Yeah. I think the jester gave him good advice about his sons potentially betraying him.
I guess that's kind of that's the kind of the thing with the jesters and stories. Normally, it's like, they're a lot wiser than they seem. They play the fool, but they speak wisdom. Green, did you like anything else about this volume?
I liked a lot. I think it's hard to say. I think the best parts might have been the dream sequences, although it's hard to say that. Or they're not really dream sequences.
I thought you might like them because they seemed very like trippy, like in a good way, like
her kind of going to heaven
journey,
and seeing the untarnished land and being inspired. Her going, oh, humans aren't ready for this yet. That was very that was
cool. Like, I'm not going to show this to people. I'm not going to tell people about this because we would just like profane it immediately, like we do no matter what. But maybe in 1,000 years we can live in peace with this untouched world. Yeah, the fungus is good. The fungus and the bugs are good. I like that moment when Chiruka, whatever, like cries, like realizing like, you know, the all these things that we thought were our enemies, like the old teachings were right. Like these things are trying to heal the earth, and we just fuck up over and over. We're such a shitty species. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and we get the reveal that the boy, what's his name, Shiroku, is a descendant of the previous.
Oh yeah, that was weird. He says his full name. Yeah, and I like how
like Green mentioned in the previous episode. It's like all of the different factions just have like another person in them that just would be a better person in power than whoever is at that time.
Like that was funny too. The Emperor throwing those things kind of in Nausicaa's face as she was approaching him, where he's like, "Fine, take it all. Take all the shitty people and the stupid Hydra and the fucking God Warrior. Like these people suck. They'll fucking do it over and over again. Everyone who tries to fucking help them, like my brother, comes to realize they're stupid. You think my ancestor took over just like on a whim? Like the people were unhappy with their tyrannical rulers and they wanted something different. That's people are always dissatisfied and easy to corral in their one stupid idea, and they never learn. They never ever learn. Yeah, I like that. Okay.
Yep. I mean, I like that it's in there. That it's. I mean, given that the conceit is like a little naive, it's good that there is stuff like this in the story to just make it more realistic.
Yeah. It's a good buffer against like, oh, magical, how great Nausicaä is. And if only no one else could see that if we all just got along and hugged, all our problems would be solved. It's like, no, there's plenty of problems and people are hard to, you know, convince. And even when you do, sometimes they just go back and flip-flop and everyone's complicated. Yeah. That's all good. I'm really excited for the final volume. Like, I feel like it's definitely like a big action finale. Lots of people, lots of ends for people.
Right, and the Emperor of Tauromachia also says that apparently the real reason for this war was to capture the crypts, which we didn't.
Yeah, the crypts are an important part coming up. I mean, that's the name of the last volume, is the crypts. I do enjoy that part of him where they're listing all the problems that are going on right now. Like, oh, the tribes are running out of here. The entire Doric land has been lost to a giant fungus and all the things. And he's like, yeah, whatever. Tell your fucking songwriter to be more convincing next time. Yeah, he might mention all these other things. Now, fuck off. It's like, I'm going to go conquer the crypts. Let's go. Yes, I want to see more of Kushan in the next volume. I want to see more of Kurosawa, and I think we will. Yeah, it's going to be a doozy. Yeah,
I will say my only complaint, if you could even really call it one, because there were good reasons for it, is just Kushana. I could have used a little more of her because she's one of the best characters.
Yeah, she went a bit in the background here after her
I completely understand why she wasn't as prominent. It makes perfect sense. It was just, it would have been nice. You know, maybe just show an image of her standing in front of a mirror and being like, God, I'm great. You know, just in the middle to remind us about her.
I promise you there's plenty of her next volume.
Like with the Kushana stuff, like one little scene where we see her set up the rebellion would have been fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, well, but I still like this one. It's good.
Hell yeah. Okay. Are we? Yeah. Do you think we've talked about things?
I think so.
I think so, especially since we ran a little long with the other two.
That's fine by me. Nausicaa is always shorter because it wouldn't be impossible.
I think the first one was long.
Maybe, but it wouldn't be impossible to just do like a podcast on the entire manga in 2 hours. Like, it's that kind of story. Yeah. So, okay. Well, goodbye, everyone.
Yep.
Good riddance.
Goodbye, everyone.
See you next time for the end of